Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's Lebanon RDC meeting. First item on the agenda this evening is going to be the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, thank you very much. And Madam Clerk, if you could please note that only Dr. Milliman is not present. Also, Craig Parks, non-voting member, is not present either. With that, I would move on to the approval of the minutes. I believe everybody received minutes. Any questions on those?
I'll make a motion we approve minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. That carries us on to old business. I show no old business for the commission, unless I missed anything. We'll go ahead and move right on to new business. And first up on the agenda is the Runabaum Shell Building, and I believe Ben is going to start us off with an update there.
Good evening, Commission members. I'll be short because I've got representatives from our consulting team here to fill you in on the bank financing terms that we received and also just some updates from Runabaum in terms, I know there were some questions last time about the materials on the building, so we did bring samples, so we've got that. But before you tonight will be the build, operate, transfer agreement that's up for approval tonight, and then also a selection of the bank financing. We do have two financing terms that came in. The two that were approved for follow-up underwriting, one of them did back out based on the terms we proposed to them. So then Mr. Marks would go back and have State Bank fill in that spot. So we did want to make sure we had two financing terms for you guys to consider tonight. So we do have Horizon Bank and State Bank that provided those terms. So I'll let him walk through that for you and then also kind of give you the high points on the build, operate, transfer agreement. So before you tonight will then be the selection and approval of the bank financing and then also the build, operate, transfer agreement. We'll take those two things separately, but with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. King and Mr. Marks just to provide some updates for you on those items.
Good evening. My name is Greg Martz. I'm with GM Development. And just to give you some background, especially if there's anyone watching tonight that did not hear our first presentation 2 months ago, we had responded to a public request for records underneath the Indiana Code 523 that the Redevelopment Commission had solicited back in, I believe, June. And since then, we have been in a scoping period to put together both design budgets and documents for your legal team and financial advisors to review, and also receiving financial terms, as Ben was saying, from banks. And so we had made a preliminary what's the word I'm looking for? Presentation of the results of that scoping period 8 weeks ago. And at that time, we had presented five bank term sheets. And as Ben was saying, the Redevelopment Commission had reduced that list to two based on mainly rate and fees. And if you remember at that time, all of those terms were subject to final credit approval. And so I had gone from that meeting and talked with the two banks that were the low bidders at the time, which was Tri-County and Horizon. And we also, that is when we started talking with Krieg DeVault and also Baker Tilly. Through those conversations, Baker Tilly had what was a great suggestion for the Redevelopment Commission, which was to make the payments subject to annual appropriation. It just gives you more flexibility. It also it has a lot of benefits that we can talk about if you'd like. But this was the advice that your financial advisor had given, and again we agreed it was great advice. And so we went back to the banks and told them that the payments were going to be subject to annual appropriation. And that's why the second bank did drop out. And we had promised that we'd bring you two credit approvals tonight. And so we went to the third bank, which is State Bank of Liston. And Greg Zusin is actually here in person. So hopefully he's okay with this, but I was going to have him present his terms in person. So I'll present Horizon terms now. They've actually improved since 8 weeks ago. and State Bank of Liston's terms have also improved. And so I think everything we have to give you tonight will be good news. The Horizon Bank term sheet, and this is a final credit approval now, so these are, if we were to accept either of these are final credit approvals. The loan fee is $6,300, which, as you know, this will probably be a short-term loan, so the loan fee is very important, $6,300. It was approved with no prepayment penalty. And again, just as a reminder, that's very important in this case because the whole idea is that this building will be built and hopefully will attract an employer very quickly to the city. So no prepayment penalty, meaning it can be paid off at any time with no penalty. They did also approve the 3 years of interest only. And again, that's important just because, again, hopefully that the building is sold within that period, and so only interest payments will have to be made. And the taxable rate, so the rate that they provided is 5-year treasuries plus 0.81. So this, I believe, will be the only difference between the two banks when Greg makes his presentation. So they're using something called a float to close. And so what that means is that the rate will actually be fixed about 3 days before we close. So maybe in about 3 weeks, let's say, something along those lines. So whatever 5-year treasuries are on that date, plus 2.20 is what the rate will be locked in. So just as an example, if we would have closed tonight, it would be 3.01 because 5-year treasuries closed at 2.2 or at 0.81 this evening. So that's one difference. I know that State Bank of Liston, as you'll hear from Greg, is actually giving a locked-in rate.
Real quick, just to clarify, so
Yes.
the 5-year treasury as of right now is the 0.81, the float is 2.2?
That's exactly
So it would be
right.
5-year treasury plus 2.2?
Yep. And I may have said that backwards, and I apologize if I did. Yep.
We're good.
They were, if we were.
Yeah, if we were to lock it today, it would be 3.01,
Yeah,
correct?
3.01, and you're going to find when Greg makes his presentation, it's amazingly close here, so. But they, so yes, 2.2 is the margin, 0.81 is the index as of today, which is the 5-year treasury.
Perfect,
Yep.
thank you.
So the bottom line is that everything we thought would get approved got approved, and the rate is better than what we had presented last time. I'll turn this over to Greg so that he can present his bank's terms, and then I'll be back to talk about a document that we've had Krieg Duvall look at and explain next steps as well. So.
Good evening, Commission members. My name is Greg Zuz, and I'm with State Bank. I'm their Senior Vice President, and I do their municipal lending at the bank. We've been very fortunate to have a wonderful relationship with the City of Lebanon. We just recently, actually last Friday, we just ended up closing the Lebanon Community Development Corporation loan with Ben as well. You know, we've had a relationship, and some of these accounts go back to 2017 and 2010. We also do have a good relationship with the Boone County commissioners and Boone County as a whole, as well as the school corporation. So we're excited about this. We've got 2 banking centers that are located within the community, one on Indianapolis Avenue and the other one on Lebanon Street. And it's interesting, you're going to talk about the lease between Vincennes and Gene Haas, and our bank is the one that financed those bonds, taxable and non-taxable, back when those were put together. Our loan amount is approved for $4.2 million, and that's what Greg had provided us here. We go to our board of directors on Wednesday evening, that's 2 days from now, to ratify that approval. The interest rate is 3%. It's just 3%. It's not tied to an index. If you don't close for another 6 months, it's still 3%. I've looked at the timeline that Greg has put together, and I'm confident that based on that timeline and where you're at in this process, I mean, he's already calling here that we're going to close this on October 6th, which is maybe aggressive, but that's okay. Because of the deal we just did with Ben took over 2.5 years, so I understand that. But we're excited about this. There is a half a point fee on this. We do use local counsel. We use Bob Clutter as our attorney. Bob is very knowledgeable in this area and is probably well-known by a lot of you people here. We are offering as well interest only for 3 years. It is a 23-year loan, interest only for 3 years, and then the remaining principal and interest is amortized over the remaining 20 years. Probably full disclosure, I'm on the Avon Town Council, so I'm used to some of this stuff, and we're very excited about our growth, just as you are, and we're building a few buildings too, of around 50,000 square feet. So we think this is a good niche, and I don't myself don't see this being around for the full 5 years, but if it is, that's fine. We're able to take care of that. It is an unsecured loan. We're not taking any collateral, and we also realize that this will be an annual appropriation, and we're fine with that. The only thing that we ask is that you put a negative pledge on the real estate that you have there. It'll be a simultaneous closing the way I understand it, and when you do the closing, they're going to give you the real estate. All we're asking you is you just don't go out and take that real estate and use it as collateral for another loan down the road. That's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Commission members, questions? So just to clarify, the 0.5% fee
Yes.
on the 4.2, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And so what we're asking for tonight is direction on moving forward with one of these two banks. I think that another option you could have is you could defer that decision to your financial advisor if you'd like. But if you know which direction you'd like to go, then that would be fantastic. If you were to vote tonight on which direction you'd like to go, we would immediately begin drafting documents with that bank. We've preliminarily sent documents to Rob and also to Baker Tilly. But anything that you would approve tonight would still be subject to their approval, of course, over the next 3 weeks. And so we'll be drafting those documents, and Rob will still need to review those and approve them. I think that, I would guess that probably a 3 to 4 week period would probably be good to get those drafted and reviewed. But there's also not huge urgency that it has to happen within that time frame. The only other point I wanted to make is that once a bank is selected, then that's when we begin working in earnest with them on creating these documents. They may want you to adopt a resolution, so I may have to come back to you at your next meeting if they request that, but they may not. So we'll just we'll work with Rob and the bank on that and decide if that's necessary or not.
Perfect. Questions from the
My only
commission?
question was the Horizon Bank was Crawfordsville, right?
They're headquartered in Michigan City, actually.
Michigan City,
Yep.
okay.
Crawfordsville was Tri-County. Yep.
Do what?
Tri-County was the third bank out of
Oh,
Crawfordsville.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
If you have a 3 to 4 week time window, we're at 4 weeks from yesterday for the next meeting. So in theory, it could potentially close prior to next meeting if the commission were to take action. Right. We could have a special meeting. If a resolution is needed, we would potentially, or like you said, if it's not, time pressing, we could do it just at the 4 week mark.
I can tell you from my perspective, I don't mind waiting till the next meeting if we need to do that. Yep. Yep.
Other questions from the commission? All right.
So it's up to us to, this evening, to make a decision for the,
Yeah, I believe the ask this evening would be for authorization to move forward with one of the two banks, and that would be still pending final legal advice. or legal review, excuse me.
My only choice that I would lean to would be Listen Bank, only because they're local. I like the local, and
I would concur, Dick, although there may be a minuscule difference in amounts.
I mean, that, did I move the decimal the wrong, 21,000 versus 6,300?
do what?
21,000 on the fee versus 6,300. So,
I mean, I'm flexible. I'm just.
right,
I thought, sorry, I couldn't lean that direction because
right.
they're local. I'd like to see local people, local money and so forth involved.
Yeah, so by my calculations then, yep, so, starting with Horizon, a $6,300 fee with no prepayment, allowing interest only, and that is based on the 5-year treasury plus a margin of 2.2%. The 5-year treasury right now is at 0.81, which in theory would put us at a starting rate of 3.01. That is variable. Versus State Bank of Lisbon is approved at 4.2 million with a 3% fixed rate, a fee of 0.5%, which my calculation puts at $21,000. No prepayment penalty as well. In terms of terms, I believe they are very, very similar, correct? The interest only for a period of time, no prepayment penalty, and both are accepting the per appropriation.
Yes, sir. Yep, they're exactly the same other than the rate and the fee. Exactly right.
Right.
And just so I'm don't misspeak, the third difference is the float to close. That's the other thing is that.
The what?
The third difference is the floating to close on one, and the other one is fixed as of tonight. The other one is not fixed until right before we close. So I just wanted to, that is the third change or the third difference.
So when we met last time, you went over the no prepayment penalty. There was a draw period of 12 months. Is that still correct?
Yes.
And a 3-year interest period.
Yep.
Is that still, okay.
Yes, that's
Thank you.
exactly right.
Okay.
So that's right.
Right, right. So with that, any comments from the commission in terms of Mr. Robertson's mentioned staying local? My personal opinion, the fee structure on this deal is most important to me. And that's a pretty sizable difference based on the loan amount.
Do what?
It's a pretty sizable difference in fee for a negligible difference in rate, potentially the same, if not better rate with it floating. That 5-year treasury can move a couple of different directions, so. The margin, it's still gonna be a variable rate after closing, correct?
It is, both of them are the same there, which is that once we close, both rates are fixed for 5 years.
They're fixed at the point of closing, so it's floating until we close, very close to when we close.
That's the thing that makes it a tough choice, because it's like, what is the market going to do for the next 4 weeks?
So it's about a $15,000 difference by math. We have a history on the 5-year treasury.
We need-
Right.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the financing with State Bank listing. Throw that out there and let somebody, I'll make a motion, we do that. Gets a second, it gets a second. If it doesn't, then we'll have to go
I'll
another
second
direction.
that.
Do what?
Subject
Subject to all the
to final,
final
yeah.
legal approvals and so forth.
I'm sorry, can you state the
Excuse me?
motion again?
I'll make
You
a motion,
approve-
we approve the State Bank list and financing, subject
Okay.
to legal review.
Got it.
Then I'll second it.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second on the table to approve with State Bank of Liston.
It's really just State Bank.
State Bank, my apologies. I know you did that update. Correct,
The
correct.
list on State Bank?
No,
Not
it's State Bank.
State Bank.
Yep, just State Bank. So with that, I believe we should take a roll call.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. We'll start Keith Campbell,
Yes,
Dick Robertson,
Yes?
Corey Coots,
No?
Bob Taylor.
No.
So the motion does not carry as presented. So with that would,
Rob, with the next, at the next meeting, we would have an extra member because John Milliman isn't here tonight. I don't know what that does or how you carry on.
You can take another
Okay,
discussion with them. Well,
Are you
You have
okay,
comments?
Rob, if Greg talks again? Is that okay?
sure. Are you okay with him speaking?
First of all, I appreciate your support. I mean, we'd be willing to at least match the fee that the other bank had proposed. If you look at the treasuries, and I've got a graph here that we've seen, back in October, treasuries were 29 basis points. Now they're 81 basis points. For the month of September, treasuries were 78 basis points, 82 as of Friday. So there's some movement there. They're going to move. Then it'll go quickly, but there's going to be some movement there. So at our 3% fixed rate as of today, we close in 6 months, it's 3%. We're not tied to a treasury. And we'll be willing, or I'll be willing to match the same fee that the other bank has matched. And I think other than that, we're pretty much identical. And I appreciate staying local and supporting the local bank. Thank you.
Verbalized clarification on this.
so then just to clarify, Greg, terms in terms of rate are as presented by you prior. The only change in terms would be the upfront fee. So rather than the 0.5, we'd be willing to match the 6,300 from Horizon.
Again, sorry for the need to clarify, but we're locking in at the 3-point, or are we floating there at the 2.20 plus
He's
5-year treasury?
You're locking in at 3%.
Thank you, that clarifies.
So with new information on the table, I would entertain either a motion, again, there is new information on the table, so we could either motion to move forward, or we could motion to table if you guys so please, but I would entertain.
I'll make a motion, we approve the proposal from State Bank of Liston,
Pending,
Second that motion.
pending final legal review.
pending final
Got it.
legal review,
got it.
with the terms that they had just agreed to.
Revised terms. Got
All
it.
right, so we have a motion and a second on the table to agree to State Bank of Lisden's revised terms of a $6,300 fixed upfront fee with a fixed 3% rate and subject to final legal review. And with that, I believe we could take a simple vote this time. Do we agree? An additional
Okay.
roll call?
All right.
A roll call has been asked.
Keith Campbell,
Yes.
Dick Robertson,
Yes.
Corey Coots.
Yes.
Bob Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. Greg, thank you very much for being present this evening. We appreciate you. We appreciate your partnership, and local is important, yes. And with that, are we moving on to another agenda item, or do we have additional comments?
Chris King from Untitled. I just have samples I'm happy to share. with you
Absolutely,
after
yes.
the
I know that was a
meeting
request.
right now, so,
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And Ben did remind me, I had one more point I needed to bring across. So the agreement that we've drafted so far, again, this was before the bank was selected, of course. It's the BOT agreement, so it's the statutory required agreement. We've drafted that, but it hasn't had the blanks filled in. So what we'll do now is we'll fill in the blanks with the rates and so forth based on State Bank's terms. And Rob will get those revised to you as soon as possible. So we'll have that reviewed by Baker Tilly and Krieg Duval ASAP. And then we'll also start drafting these ancillary documents as well. And so we'll put those in front of Krieg and Baker Tilly as soon as possible. And then through that process, we'll determine if I need to come back in front of you next month or not. So we'll talk about that. I think the only reason would be if a resolution ends up being required to, or not, so.
Do we have any additional documents that may need signed prior to the next meeting?
I think if we don't need a resolution, then all the documents can theoretically be executed before the next meeting.
Okay.
And it would be that BOT agreement, a temporary easement agreement, and a participation and purchase agreement would be the three main documents, which again, Rob has only seen one of those so far, so we'll make sure and get those, that complete package to him as soon as possible.
So, and Ben, you may want to clarify on this, but would there be an ask to authorize individuals this evening?
Yeah, I think tonight what we'll be asking for you is to approve the bot agreement, subject to final legal review and authorizing you, Mr. Coots, to sign on behalf of the RDC, because I know you're reasonably available in the mornings, get these documents signed for me, so I think that's what we'd be looking for tonight. So if there's any questions on the bot agreement, if you want Greg to kind of walk through the high points on that, maybe do that, but that's what we'll be looking for tonight is approval of that agreement.
Any questions from the commission on the BOT agreement? So with that, I would entertain a motion, or yes, on the BOT agreement. One point from my side, if the commission so pleases, we may authorize either the mayor and myself. I am out of town for one of those weeks, so we don't get stuck one of those weeks. That might make sense, but that's up to you. It's the week, yeah. So, again, I'd be happy to entertain a motion on the bot agreement, pending a final legal review and authorizing myself and/or Mayor Gentry to sign.
There's a spot for your signature on there. There's a spot for your signature on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, this.
I'll make a motion, we approve
Okay,
the.
we can just leave it as me, that's fine.
Do what?
We can leave it as me rather than the mayor as well, that's fine. I'll make it work. I'm good with that. Cool, sounds great.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion then to approve the bot transfer agreement, correct? Subject to legal review and signature of the mayor or Corey.
Is that work for the documentation?
It's fine.
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect.
Just have you sign.
So we have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second from either. With that, no further discussion. So all those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much.
All righty, so I believe that wraps up that portion of our agenda. Moving on, we have a couple of agenda items. What's that? Oh, Commission, did you want to see a sample of the materials now, or did you want to take a look at those after the meeting?
Quick presentation, it'd be good to have a public review.
Yeah,
Sorry,
got
we
it.
already walked
We're here.
back.
Yeah, that's fine.
Appreciate you coming in.
Chris King with Runabout Construction again. This is just an example of the
take
type
off
of
the
panel.
agenda they want to do?
What it is it's metal-faced insulation. And so this would be proposing a 40-inch wide
take
panel.
off.
And they fit together in a tongue and groove that's then sealed. Very flexible from a design perspective. So, you know, as we see somebody that takes the building, it's very easy to cut this metal, whereas precast can be very difficult to modify. So it's very flexible in being able to meet the needs for, you know, what we see as an end user for the building. So happy to share these. This is what would be considered a flat panel. From a distance, you really can't see any texture. There is a slight texture on it. The reason there is because with a completely flat panel, you do tend to get some oil canning and some things that are an issue. So there is a slight texture. But from a distance, it really does look completely flat. So happy to share these. This is an R19 panel. They're also available in thicker panels as well, which would give more, but this is pretty typical of what you'd see in a wall in a manufacturing facility.
We've got this covered, just for my own curiosity, the moisture invasion that's potential there in the seams.
Yeah, so there's a sealant that goes in here as these come together, that keeps any of the moisture from coming through. And you know, concrete is porous material too, so even with this, there's less opportunity. These types of panels, this is exactly this side in particular where you have the ribs, is what's used in food grade facilities. And the reason being, it's very easy to wash down, and it's not impossible, but it keeps bacteria from those types of things from actually getting into this and causing issues.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That would be good if people
Yeah,
made it.
absolutely.
So,
Correct, yeah.
thank you for bringing it in. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very good. So with that, we will move on to the next couple of agenda items. Commission, we do have two agenda items coming up. Both are the lease agreements with Vincennes University as well as the Gene Haas Center. We have had some discussion on that. I believe we have some additional discussion to potentially have within both of those lease agreements. So if the commission were open to it, I would suggest we potentially look at a working session to discuss those lease agreements specifically. That way we can get the city council in here in a halfway timely fashion and bake out a couple of the items on those lease agreements. Do we have to officially table it? Go ahead and table it. So, yeah, so I would entertain a motion to table both the Vincennes University and Gene Haas lease agreements.
I move that we table at this time the lease agreement for Vincennes University and the Gene Haas Training Center.
Perfect. We have a motion and a second. With all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. So those two items are tabled. And with that, we are on to our facade grants. And I believe Mr. Derek Warren is going to give us a little bit of an intro on these two.
Good evening, Commission. Two applications for RDC Historic Preservation Grants on the table tonight. The first is 116 North Lebanon Street, the Merle Norman location. The application is for a exterior black steel staircase for access to the second floor. So there currently is no real good access that makes any sense. There's some ducking and diving and crawling through somebody else's property, and it's just not good. So the application tonight is for a new steel staircase in the alley. It does have Board of Works approval, and it does have Historic Preservation Commission approval. I'll go over the numbers with you real quick, and then I'll show you pictures of the location so you can wrap your head around that. There are two estimates that have been submitted for tonight. One is from Benchmark Fabricated Steel, and the other is from JL Steelworks LLC. The low bid is from Benchmark. The bid is $25,595. JL Steelworks is at $31,610. The low bid puts the application in Category 5, which is an estimated cost of improvements of $25,001 and $30,000. In this case, the owner's share is $5,500 with a maximum grant of $24,500. With that, the staff recommendation is for an award of $20,095. So those are the numbers. Let me show you a couple pictures so you can get an idea of where I'm talking about. So if I can get these put up on the screen. So this is historic Lebanon. Everybody likes to see these pictures. So we're looking at probably somewhere, I'm not super good with these cars, but I'm going to say in the 50s. So hopefully we're somewhere close. And you can see the staircase right there in the alleyway. So once upon a time, at least back into the 50s or so, we are in the situation of having a staircase in this alley. The other picture that I had was a picture from the, gosh dang it, I'm sorry I had it labeled, 1912 basketball championship parade. You can see the gentleman standing on a staircase there right next to the alley. And if you look really close, I probably can't zoom in far enough, but off to his, what would be his right, looks like the staircase extends past the building edge. There's no way of really knowing if the staircase was there in 1912, but it certainly was there mid-century.
I think Derek made that up, just so we're all clear.
I think he was a young man.
Keith, are you in this picture?
No.
Okay.
He may be able to have a memory of that day.
I asked him if he-
To be honest here, he wasn't very old, but.
I asked him if he was around then.
You look good for your
Sorry,
age.
Keith, you just sometimes can't pass him up.
That's all right.
You come on back, I deserve it.
So this is the picture of the current condition. You can see that in the blue circle, there is a hole in the facade that is taller than the 3 holes to the what would be the west of that, openings, I'm sorry, holes, openings, same difference. So the opening circled certainly looks like it was a door once upon a time from the exterior, and when you look behind that covered up area there, you can see a doorway. So the applicant is going to preserve the door that is there with installation of new staircase. I'll give you a real quick, this is the engineering detail of the staircase. Not much here to see, but it does provide the nuts and bolts of the staircase that has been submitted to the applicant is working with the state for approval right now, so it takes a state building permit to install a staircase. I think that is all I have to show you on my end. So with that, I'll answer any questions about this particular application if you have any. And the applicant is here tonight to answer any questions as well.
Yes,
How
and
much, clarify this, I know we've talked about it before, maybe Kevin or Dave or somebody, how much space are we gonna have from the sidewalk to the next building for the driving area?
Kevin,
Also one lane alley.
Yeah, it is a one-lane alley. It's roughly 16 feet wide from building face to building face, so there should be approximately 12 foot
12 feet,
clear
okay.
after the staircase is installed, which is more than adequate for a travel lane.
Okay.
Obviously, there is some concern in protecting the staircase. I'd like to see maybe a bollard installed just so that it doesn't get damaged. The original staircase, what we understand, was removed by a semi-truck at some point in the history of the building. So there is some history there. But still, a 12-foot lane is more than adequate. And given the historical nature of the building and the historic access of that second floor, this seems to be the appropriate step to take.
Are they going to put a safety post out front at the bottom there?
Yes,
So,
yes.
okay.
Kevin, do you know what a standard single-lane traffic width is?
Well, it varies from 10 to 12 feet. I would say when we redeveloped the downtown streetscape project, the lanes around the courthouse square are between 11 and a half and 12 feet in width.
Thank you for that.
Yes, and the applicant is proposing to install protection for the staircase, at least one, possibly two, depending on where she ends up landing.
Will there be any additional signage?
No additional signage.
We don't want another semi pulling in.
Yeah, well, semis aren't allowed in the downtown anyway.
Fine, take your choice.
And then just to clarify for the commission and anyone that may be watching, so as Derek did say, this has been before the Board of Works, had full approval there, as well as the Historic Preservation Committee. And then just to speak to the access point right now, as I understand it, you actually have to go in the neighbors, go upstairs, crawl through a hole, and enter that way currently. So.
Into a bathroom, I believe, is where you. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Right. So this would definitely be a positive solution to the issue at hand.
So we have an apartment upstairs, okay, so should there be more than one entrance and exit? Is there going to be another way out? I'm just concerned of fire, things like that. Is there another exit way out?
Yep, the state reviews all that, and they make the requirement for the egress. And Stacy Dempster is here, and she's in that process right now, so if you have some questions, she's probably best to answer those.
Thanks, Derek. You've been a lot of help. So as far as access, right now I actually talked with a fire inspector, and he says without the staircase, it's a hazard right now.
Right,
You can't
right.
access it. So, but anyway, like they mentioned, I call it a Scooby-Doo entrance when I first purchased the building. I didn't know how to get to the upstairs, and then I found out that I had to go next door through the attic and then seriously through a hole in the wall to get to it, and that's the only access. So what happened years ago, there used to be a furniture store, and their loading dock, they had to go through that alley to reach the furniture store, from what I understand, and a semi hit the staircase, and the owner said, forget it, we just won't access the second story. So it's been like that for a while, but it's a really neat setting. The windows overlook the courthouse, and I know when I was talking to Missy from the Heart of Lebanon, I know she was really excited that I wanted to revitalize the apartment complex, because that's what many downtowns want to do right now, is have businesses on the bottom and then apartment space at the top. And that's what I want to do, is to make an apartment upstairs. There's about 1,000 square foot, so it could make a really nice 2-bedroom apartment. There's beautiful hardwood floors, and I've talked to JL Hardwood. I think they've done a lot downtown about refinishing it. I plan to keep those hard floors. It's going to be a lot of work upstairs. I just need access to it, and I've been working since January to get this to happen. You just have to be patient, and so I'm trying to be very patient and do the different steps. But anyway, you know, accessing the second story will really make it look nice. I need a staircase, and you were mentioning, is there another way out? Well, there's windows that are boarded up. Let's see, there's, I think, 3 on the side that face Cowan's, 2 or 3.
2
And then there's 3 up front, and then there's 1 in the back. Now, I plan on opening all those windows up, and the one in the back, literally, you access the roof, because this is a story and a half. It's not a full second story. So you can jump down on the roof and then kind of scale down to where the insurance company is. I mean, you literally can get out that way also. So, but I am going through state approval right now to get the permit. I have an engineer working with me. I have the staircase engineer coming this week to do some measurements. So I just would love to get some help with this. Of course, it's during COVID and everything is 2 or 3 times. When I talked to the guy, and because I thought, it'd be $10,000 to get a staircase. What do I know? It's triple that because of all the steel prices and things like that. So getting this grant is so vital for me to make this happen. So then, you know, I would have the budget to do, you know, the rest of the renovation to the upstairs.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Stacy. Commission, any other questions for Stacy?
I don't have any questions about that. Just, I guess my only comment is about the grant itself. I get into this grant thing and.
You don't say.
Yeah. I have a hard time us giving more than what the owner's putting in to the facility, to the project themselves. That's my only issue.
Yeah, keep in mind a couple of different things. So this is a kind of a graduated scale, right? So hopefully Stacy comes back in front of us for more stuff down the road as you
Because I need
do
to fix the
additional
roof.
improvements. Well, don't say roof to these people. Don't do it. Do not do it. But yeah, so that's still something that, you know, if you would like to propose changes, I think that's something that we could have that conversation about. But I believe Derek has, as you have made the same comments each meeting, Derek has also made said comments each meeting. So we may forego those comments. But, you know, when we look at this bid, it's $25,595. Staff recommendation based on the current grid is an RDC award amount of $20,095. So, based on the current grid and what's available today, I would entertain a motion based on the request in front of us.
I concur. I mean, for years, I've kind of gone back and forth on this about that, but honestly, over that time and through Derek's help and some of the folks in the city department, it's simply reinvesting in that downtown. My time here in Lebanon, the last 2.5 decades, we've made huge strides here in the last 10 years. And so again, we're taking a non-usable space, in my opinion, and we're paying. But I think in my vision, that building then becomes a much more usable facility, becomes much more attractive. If it attracts some residential downtown, that's ultimately the goal. Yes. The 500. So, but I understand exactly what you're saying. But nonetheless, the projects we've approved, if you look around town now, it makes a noticeable difference. What we see as the visual impression of Lebanon, and I think that's, I don't know if that's going to help you sleep any better tonight, depending on how you vote, but it's really what I've come to grips with as part of my trying to be a fiscally sound representative of our community. I think I can speak very confidently that the dollars that we do spend on the facade program have come back in a very positive manner, so.
Right.
I'm validating your thoughts, but I'm trying to tell you, in the end, it's what we're doing anyway, so it's got some benefit. Thank you. Having said that, Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the facade grant in the amount of $20,095 as recommended to us at this time.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? So I will second that motion. So we have a motion and a second. I believe we're going to be looking for Mr. Derek Warren to make additional comments based on his hand up.
Sorry, I just want to make you aware, and I know we've had this discussion time after time, it seems like, and which is fine. But Stacy has purchased the building. So I don't necessarily know the exact number, but I'm going to guess somewhere in the $175,000 range. Invested several thousand to make the store what it is. So in most of these cases, I can't say all the cases, but most of the cases, especially the one in front of you tonight, the owner has invested significantly more than the $5,500 minimum to make a building a location where people shop, a location where possibly people live in the future, and that is exactly what the plan for this grant has been all along. We have one more year of the current resolution. I'd certainly like to see it kept in place for that one more year, have some discussions on what it looks like moving forward, but the changes that have happened even in the last 4 years, outside of the investment made for the infrastructure improvement, the reason we're seeing those changes is because of this grant that we have in place. I've been with the HPC now since 2012, and I have seen the progress that our district has made, and the district has significantly made huge leaps into a viable place for people to work, live, shop, again, in the last 4 years, more so than the previous 6 before the grant has really.
The other part of that, Derek, that I think we forget sometimes is this exact commission has spent a lot more money to tear down buildings in our downtown because people have chosen not to put an investment in them. We've got the Montgomery Wards building, we've got most recently the New Life building, so those are a lot more expensive to tear down once they get in that state of disrepair than to help with a facade grant to promote the TIF area.
And, just another quick statement. The team putting together the Ready grant from the state of Indiana for our area, they were really interested in finding out the details of the money that has been provided through this grant. So that's being highlighted in our application. And it's a positive note to receive this kind of funding because of the community investing back into the community. So we're a smidge over $750,000 has been invested back into the downtown through this grant, out of the 1.25 that was originally set aside. So it's been extremely positive.
Awesome.
I have a question for you, Derek. Can you give me, and I've asked you this question I think once before, tell me exactly what the word facade means.
Well, facade is exterior components of a structure, and eligible items are outlined in the resolution. It's not necessarily bricks and windows. It can be other things that have been deemed legal for us to spend our money on. Even so far as structural components up to a certain percentage. Electric wiring on the interior is not eligible. HVAC components, plumbing, that sort of thing. But exterior components is kind of a broad definition of facade. But again, our resolution that was adopted in 2018 identifies the eligible and ineligible components.
So you said in a year from now, we're going to take this up again?
The current resolution expires at the end of 2022.
They're running the same for the county.
don't get me wrong, I'm not against the program, okay? And what we have here is a guideline, okay, something for us to talk about. We don't have to agree with these guidelines, okay? And so my thoughts is that the homeowner, not the homeowner, but the property owner, building owner, whatever, should have a little more skin in the game than what we're giving them. We shouldn't be paying them for everything. That's my feelings. That's my, especially when we get down to these kind of smaller amounts, there need to be, because I remember before when I got on here and we were paying for the whole thing on a couple of small items. I thought there's no skin in the game from the building owner, you know?
Hey, Dick, I just want to mention, when you say no skin in the game, I want to talk to you for a second.
You got
So-
skin in the game, I know.
Yeah, right.
You know, I know everything you got.
Yeah.
And I like what you have, don't get
Okay.
me wrong.
Well, I just wanted to maybe even tell you, along with purchasing the building, I had to put a new air conditioning unit. That was an additional $7,000. And then the proposal to finish the upstairs is, I don't know, $15,000, $20,000 or more. So he was right as far as the amount that I paid for the building. So I just want to be able to access it. Right now, I wouldn't be able to do anything with the second story without this grant. So this will give me leverage to do the second story. And I just want to say in addition, just to keep pulling here, the Heart of Lebanon actually did a survey on what brings people to the downtown, and they surveyed, I think she said, I hope my information's correct, 150 people. What brought you to downtown Lebanon? And I was voted the #1 reason for people to come to downtown. And Arnie's, I believe, was second, and the other pizza place was third. But I've been here for 18 years, and I'm committed to this downtown. I, as you know, moved over from across the street to stay in the downtown. And all I ask for is the support of this staircase so I can, continue to make this building look beautiful for the downtown.
So with that being said, I believe we have a motion and a second on the table. Dr. Taylor was a motion, I was the second. I believe we should probably do a roll call vote.
All right, Keith Campbell,
Yes.
Dick Robertson,
No.
Corey Coots,
Yes.
Bob Taylor,
Yes.
passes.
And with that, the
3-1.
motion does carry. Thank you very much. So, yes, Stacy, we are excited for this staircase. And as Councilman Robertson said, the presence that you have downtown is very much appreciated.
Sure.
There are some questions about this grant process, so please don't take that personal from anyone on the commission.
Nothing against you personal at all. It's just,
Okay, just business, nothing.
it's just our process. No, I'm glad you're doing it.
And with
Remember the old
that,
stairway.
right, and with that,
What'd you want to say?
we thank you very much, Stacy. You
Thank
are
you.
approved and in good shape.
Appreciate
Derek, on to round 2.
Okay, round 2. I'm just going to give it to you as is. It is a application for a roof, which, as per the current resolution, has been amended from the original resolution. We do fund 30% of a roof project. After I get into the numbers, I will certainly let the applicant get up here and answer any questions that you have about future projects. I can tell you before we get started here that we have met several times. The mayor has been involved in these conversations, and this applicant does have plans, has already started some of the plans for a complete site preservation project. But as the year starts to end and we get into a period, especially with these rubberized roofs, it's important to get these done in these months that we still have some heat left so that things can seal up properly. So that's why we are here first for a roof estimate. A roof grant. So Tonight, the second application is for 124 South Meridian Street for roofing as mentioned. This is for a traditional rubber membrane roofing with steel coping. Both estimates are pretty well apples to apples. Diversified Roofing Services LLC and Quality Roofing Services, are the estimates that you received. Diversified Roofing Services is the low estimate at $61,700, with Quality Roofing Services coming in at $62,900. 30% of $61,700, the low estimate, is $18,510. So this is the building that is directly west of the Montgomery Ward site, where North Homes is located. Their office is located in this building. The applicant purchased the building 6 months ago? 6 to 8 months ago, somewhere around there, from the previous owner. The building also came with the parking lot that is to the west of the building. So this is a pretty substantial chunk of land that's in our historic district, and there is very solid plans for this building moving forward outside of the roof application. So I'll certainly let the applicant speak to that more on what his vision is, what he's already done as investment-wise, and what's coming up here in the near future.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Derek.
Good evening. I'm Michael North. I'm North Homes. I've been building custom homes for a long time. I own the building now. We bought it from Frank Starkey when he passed away unexpectedly. We have a lot of money invested in this building already, but our grand plan for this building is to make custom high-end apartments above our spaces. We're also going to redo the facade as well as the parking lot, which I know that everybody's always been famous for nagging Frank about fixing. But the first things are first. In this business, I've got to seal that building up first, and we have leaks, and that roof is very, very old. So we're here tonight to try to convince you of our long-term plans, which we already have interviewed architects. We should have plans within the next 90 days to take to state. We have a point person, Mr. Greg Silcox, who runs Silcox Consulting, who's running this project for us as well. I've been in this community a long time. I have high motivation to make this building work because I've been down there for 20 years. So I know the roof is a bad name for you guys right now, and I hate following that up with the roof situation. But that's what we're here for. We do have long-term plans for it, and we're not going anywhere. But if we don't fix the roof, and without the money granted to us for the roof, it makes it that much harder. As you know, prices in construction have gone through the roof, literally and figuratively, and I live it every day. So we're trying to get on board to get this project done before the winter hits. We also can limit our cost exposure going forward. As you know, there's been lots of difficulties in acquiring materials, etc. So we're trying to get this thing on board so we can move to phase 2, which is also fixing the facade, doing tuck pointing, ultimately fixing the parking lot, and ultimately tearing down the 118 building, by the way. That's right next to me that I own too. That's going to be much nicer than what we've always had there, which is nothing but an eyesore and a problem for the community. So we're excited about the project.
Is that the old jewelry store?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. That's going to go somewhere else.
Awesome.
That's the plan. What questions do you have for me?
One just real quick point of clarity. So on the document we received, the second total, I think that's just a simple typo. It mentions 35,992. So as we put that into the record, we'll just need to correct that. The total under bid number 2, I believe, is supposed to be 62,900. Correct, Derek?
Sorry, yeah. Obviously, I copy and paste these estimate documents as I move forward, so I don't have to recreate the wheel every time. Yeah, so.
For us to go into the record, I just wanted to make sure. So that second bid total should be the 62,900. So with that, commission members?
Mr. North, got a question.
Go ahead.
It's not about the roof. about the parking lot.
Okay,
How soon are we going to get to that parking lot?
it's a great question.
I mean, you've got a parking lot across the street that's very nice now. You got one behind you now that the county has redone, and now we got yours right there in the middle.
Yep. Are you
Boy, we need
offering
to
more
fix
grant
it.
money for that, Mr. Robinson?
Do what?
Are you offering more money for that?
No.
Funny how that one worked out, isn't
No,
it?
I was just asking.
Just curious. How's,
The plan and construction for this building would be a mistake to asphalt that parking lot now, and we're gonna just totally regut and redo this building.
Okay,
We've already
right.
gutted that second story, by the way. It's totally
do
empty.
you have the whole parking lot from to the alley to the street, from east-west alley?
Yes,
Do you? Okay.
yes. So I know that's valuable real estate, number one, and I know also,
Well, you're going to have to redo it if you put apartments upstairs, because you'll have
yeah, we
parking
have to do
back
it
there.
anyway. There's no doubt about it. State won't
Okay.
approve it without it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that for a stairway?
Sorry?
The state approval, is that for a stairway?
Yeah. I don't know, understand all that.
It's interesting.
She had to have state approval for her stairway.
Oh,
so
yeah, I
it
heard
was-
that part. I just don't understand why the state has to get involved with the
Right.
metal stairway, but
Right.
that's me being me.
She doesn't either.
Any other questions, comments from the commission?
There's any problem getting materials?
I have stories that we could bore each other for hours on materials, but right now, I'm guaranteed from both vendors that we can get the materials in time to do this project before the snow flies.
Rubber roof?
Yeah,
Yes.
awesome. Any other questions? Yes, absolutely. Your world getting materials right now is no fun, so.
It's insane.
So with that, I believe the staff recommendation was 30% of the low estimate, which is an amount of $18,510. And I would entertain a motion, reference the property at 124 South Meridian Street. Not to dangle any carrots, but the next thing on the agenda is adjourning, so.
We have in our resolution, we have it set to where we approve 30% for roofing. We passed that in our resolution.
Correct, that was an
So
amendment.
I will go ahead and make the motion that we approve the 30% of the low estimate to the amount of $18,510.
Great, we have a motion. I would entertain a second.
Second it.
A motion and a second. With that, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. I only fibbed slightly just because we have to pay our bills before we adjourn. So everyone has obtained a copy of our claims.
Make a motion, we pay claims?
We have a motion
A second.
as well as a second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone else? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries there as well. Seeing no other agenda items, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. We will see you at the next RDC meeting.